Good afternoon, everyone. Mary McDonald. I've been with AWS about 6 years now, but I also would like to make the point that I come from an entire manufacturing automation background. I'm actually a Pittsburgh native. I've lost my accent long ago. But the first 18 years of my career was actually spent at Rockwell Automation. So I live and breathe factory floors. And also when I made my move to Emerson Process and then OSI Soft, again, very, very close to the manufacturing folks. So in moving to AWS, it was all part of the, what next are we doing in marrying together this OT and IT space, which has become very, very critical to how we operate. The merge, I'll say, in just the last 2 years, somebody made the comment about, agentic. We weren't using that word a couple of years ago, but we sure are now. And like I said, the speed by which it is moving is pretty incredible. But it's not about just jumping onto it, but it's about using it when the right time is for you to go. Which one? Is the center one? Oh, there we go. Okay. So, one of my favorite quotes, I can't move, came from Andy Jazzy, during one of our reInvent sessions, which is our annual event where we invite 60,000 of our closest friends into Las Vegas. But it is a wonderful, place for developers, for execs to learn. And Andy always has a great keynote speech. So he was the initial, AWS CEO, and now he is our overall Amazon CEO. And what he said was, you want to be reinventing all the time. Some of it is about building the right reinvention culture, and some of it's just knowing about what technology is available to you and jumping on it to make that reinvention happen. So it's not about getting caught up in the hype cycle. I remember when we started talking about IoT and IIoT, and I was the first one that's like, oh my God, what's that new stuff? And I go, oh. Somebody just caught on to what we've been doing on the factory floors for the last 30, 40 years. And it's true. We've had intelligent sensors. We've had a lot of that going on. So it wasn't going to create a net new network, but there were some different ways of now thinking about how we were going to build those architectures for the future. So at Amazon, we think about things in what we call durable needs. What is not going to necessarily change over time? And when we talk about it from the Amazon perspective, our retail side of the house, we talk about the three pillars, by which is price, selection, and convenience. When we take a look at price, nobody's going to ask to ever pay more, right? Nobody's ever going to ask for, selection. Well, no, just give me 2 things on the website to look at. No, I want to see everything. I want to hit the page after page after page. And the third one is convenience, where you want to wait 2 weeks for your box? Probably not. So we keep resetting the bar on ourselves for customers never asked us for necessarily that within hours to be delivered, but we set the bar on ourselves to say they're going to want more. And so we give them more. So when we take a look at, so what doesn't change in manufacturing? Well, a few things. So reduced variation. I mean, wouldn't it be wonderful to be absolutely predictably boring about what kind of quality that we're getting or what the OEE is going to happen? Wouldn't it be nice to say, to our employees, well, you just deploy it. You just, we'll automatically train you. But the thing that doesn't change about the employees want to participate, but they also want to be trained. I mean, we have a whole bunch of YouTube graduates out there. It's just a different way of learning. So we need to continue to empower them to take these systems forward. And then the third one is speed wins. How fast are you to market? How fast can you make your processes better? That's going to increase that profitability. And also then you're actually getting, just by inherent of that, you're going to get more customers on board and increase their customer satisfaction. So when we take a look at, again, manufacturing, the durable needs that don't change and we continue to build on are those 3. So we did a survey, just as an emphasis to that, back in 2021 with many manufacturing executives, and said, okay, it's the proverbial what keeps you up at night. What is most important to you? And oh, by the way, those durable needs came right back up again, which is quality, empowering the employees, how fast are you to market, and customer satisfaction. And we said, well, gee, how does this all play together? Now, this is where I start trying to walk and I can't. So we said, let's get a picture of this, because truly with AWS, there is not a place in your company where we would not help to touch to make things critically better for you and for your customers. And so we thought about it more in terms of a manufacturing data flywheel. So the inherent principle behind a flywheel is you have cogs in it. And when you have the inertia of one cog moving faster and faster, then it just drives the rest of the system to also move faster. Now, you don't have to necessarily enter into this flywheel at any particular point, but the point is enter in. And if we think about in the upper left-hand cog, which is the smart factory, there we come up with, okay, we care about quality, we care about OEE, we care about making that cog faster. That then gets delivered to the customer with our smart products and services on the right hand of the cog. And that is all the customer feedback that we get. And it could be also if you have a smart device, such as a Roomba, where it's always giving information back to the cloud about how it's operating, how the customer's using it, how fast did it go down. And then that inherently goes to the bottom of the cog, which is all of the next part of product engineering. All of these are connected on the outer circle by that supply chain, which is critical to any one of our processes. But that's where some of the external factors come in that can be a source for change. But in the center of it, and we've shown this kind of in a couple of different ways through some of these presentations, which is we still need that data source. We're all using the same data sources to figure out how to make manufacturing better. How do we get better customer satisfaction? How do we get product engineering designed fast enough so that manufacturing can accept it? So there is still that source of getting and threading all of that data together that is there, but it's just siloed. So how do we get closer to nirvana? So I'll say in the world that I grew up in, ISA 95, loved the stack. The stacks work well. We had a lot of blue hose connecting through the stack, and we could eventually get from the edge to the enterprise layer, but it took a lot of hard coding, right? And then if somebody wanted something different, then you had to hard code it again. So we understand now that there's different ways to do it. And now we're looking at it more in terms of that traditional phase in the, getting more composable. So no longer do you have to buy a big monolithic MES system. We now have a lot of different partners who know how to break it apart. Or the partners that we've used, traditionally, they are also reconfiguring their systems so that you only pay for what you use, much like an AWS service. So now we're starting to get into this, okay, we're going to leave some of those layers up there so we don't break anything. But now we're going to get into these more composable bubbles to get into the next, as they call it, nirvana desired state. So where every piece of this can be its own operational entity, but we're also getting into the software-defined factory versus a hard-coded one or a truly physical one. So that's when we execute some of these digitally composed outcomes with our customers, and we do this in a parallel state with those core applications like the ERP, MES, SCADA, the data historians, and then this solutions map actually shows those parallels that we run, and we do this through a combination of AWS managed services as well as our partners such as HighByte, Inductive Automation, Tulip, to get that marriage of the data layer from the from that data modernization to those composable business outcomes, such as we said, predictive maintenance or maintenance management, predictive management, quality management. They all are part of those business outcomes that we're looking for. Nobody buys technology because it's cool. They buy it because it drives that business value. And that's why we try to make sure that we have those layers in place to thread that together. At the very bottom of it, and I just had this discussion with somebody over lunch, I said, we still need to talk about that OT security layer. It doesn't, you can't just plug things in. I mean, we're not allowed to come in with the sticks anymore and just plug them in. That's a bad thing, and that's okay. But we also, as we're exploring the new technology, let's make sure we have a plan that we can we make sure that we take up those gaps, and we make sure that we are secure in the technology we're about to do. So, and those are partners like Dragos and Clarity, folks that absolutely know that business and how to get you to a plan. We also use still some of the traditional partners that are out there. They've been thinking about this for years and years and years because they've lived on those factory floors, such as Siemens and Rockwell and Aviva Schneider. So, it's real. I'll say I grew up in the world of the stack, and now I can talk left to right. So when we're talking about those parallels that we run, so this is a little bit of a different picture of it. So at the top, we're talking about, the traditional names and logos that that are now empowered to work, through that edge, and also that layer of the SAP and getting to the ERP, and them coming together in the HighByte industrial ops world to then deliver it to your cloud provider, AWS, for some of those other analytical business decisions that you make, and then funnel it back down so that you can make those appropriate decisions. Okay, a real life example in AWS and HighByte working together. So Vivix is a glass manufacturer, and they heavily, and this is just in 2021, so just a few years ago. So up until then, they were heavily relied on Excel and a paper and manual data entry process into SAP to run their entire glass production process. Process was very error prone, inefficient, slow. It took a long time to respond to customer complaints, as well as some of that internal production issues, partly due to because you have a lot of manual activity going on in the analytics that go from it, but also because there was you're relying on just a few people who knew, the people that walk in and there's just like, what's that sound? The sound isn't, it's wrong today, or it smells different. And so, and if those people are on vacation, what do you do? So, Vivix said, look, we got to do something different, definition of insanity. And so they said, okay, we want to digitize our process, and we want to use some of our current tools in a very methodical and a very thought-provoking way, such as Gen AI, to become just much more productive, reduce those operational costs, and improve the product quality, but also really, really, we need to improve our customer experience. So, a la Vivix in 2025, again, just a few years later, in less than 3 years, Vivix built over 25 Mendix apps to digitize the entire end-to-end glass production process. Most apps run on AWS, but some are on the industrial edge services, such as Siemens. And the apps are integrated with the core IT systems like SAP and consume OT data from the unified namespace that they built with HighByte. The latest Mendix app, I think it's kind of in the center of the screen, it features a chatbot called the Virtual Engineer, and that's powered by Amazon Bedrock. This helps the quality team actually resolve, the customer complaint process a whole lot faster, where they're actually on the internal side trying to figure out what happened with production, but also say, I actually did solve that customer problem. And so since now in 2025, they've actually, I think the number is in 2023, they actually saved 6,000 manual hours of the manual input that they used to do into those systems. 6,000 hours in 1 year. Isn't that incredible? They took the customer complaint process, so they used to only be able to do it within about 5 days. They now take it down to less than a day. In trying to figure out root cause analysis that took them, 4 or 5 days or up to even 6 weeks, they've taken it down to minutes because now they have the back architecture to be able to solve it because they just said, look, we're all in. Let's go figure this out. So what's next? There's always a what's next. Okay, so Bedrock had launched a few years ago, and now, I'll say initially, let me get this next one. So initially, we take a look at the single, I call it like the single prompt engineering, where it's more of a deterministic business workflow. So if you think about it from the consumer side, if you ask the question, book me a trip for the lowest cost. Okay, you're going to get an answer, right? So on the production side, it says, schedule a production order with a lot size to meet dependent requirements for the next 7 days. Okay, I asked it a question, it's going to give me an answer. Well, let's get a little bit more interesting because there's all kinds of other things that can flow into that. It'll give you an answer, but it didn't give you all the other things that can happen around it. So when we start talking about the agentic applications to this, we expect tasks to be completed much more dynamically. So from the consumer side, again, talking about that same trip, well, you know what? Book me a trip taking into account prices and preferences, such as your airline status, where I like to stay, what cities I'm willing to go through, departure, layover times, and things like that. On the production side, we take a look at scheduling a production order considering material availability, line capacity, and shift staffing. Again, much more dynamic. You'll get these slides later, so you don't have to write fast. The forward-looking part of this is trying now to get these multiple agents to collaborate together. Again, on the consumer side, so you know what? Manage my entire itinerary, addressing trip delays in real time, and manage the social media posts so that I know not to go to that restaurant. Now, I'll say the additional part to this that happens too is not only not schedule this restaurant, but are they open on Mondays? And make sure that you don't accidentally book it for the wrong one. On the production side, and again, truly the collaborative entire manufacturing data flywheel, getting the information from and being able to collaborate across those businesses, optimize the production schedule, addressing customer expedites, changeover times, and planned downtime windows. So in just a couple of years, we're now able to help these agents, help these models get much faster, smarter, because we now have tools like HighByte to thread our solution together. Now, and I tell people too, it's just, so when we first started, and the AI is nothing to be quote unquote afraid of. We've been doing it again for years. I mean, anybody ever hear of SPC, statistical process control? PAT, process analytical control? Closed loop analog? That's what this has been doing. This is just our next steps because now we have the technology to be able to go a little bit further. So with something truly agentic and be able to work in the background, reimagine, if you will, or reinvent your daily production meeting. You've now told the system, I care about these top 5 things every time I wake up. So when I walk in my office in the morning, somebody says, Mary, would you like to understand what happened in the 3rd shift last night? Or would you like to understand how we need to counter this for the 1st shift this morning? I looked at this when I first came to AWS, I said, well, we have Alexa for manufacturing, right? Well, kind of now we do. Because now we have all of the background features, all of the architectures, all of the partners now who can help us get there together because we can marry the systems. Another common customer to AWS and HighByte is Georgia Pacific. Now, I'll say I take a a lot, I want to say a lot of pride, but just I got to work on this one. when Bedrock first came out. And so Georgia Pacific, much like many other manufacturing customers, were, plagued by, you have people that have been there for 6 months, 1 year, 3 years, and then 30 years. And so how are we able to capture in all of these different data silos, all of the different things about how a machine operates, what to look for in different trending operations without having to have, somebody that is the absolute system magic expert that understands when the line does this, what does that mean? And so we use Amazon Bedrock, Claude models, and Kinesis to be able to gather together and bucketize, the right digitized information so that they had the data to look through, but also be able. And this did kind of start out as a chatbot, and we went through many iterations about, well, is it giving me back the right information that I thought it should? And so we do have subject matter experts standing over his shoulder to say, you know what, that doesn't still look quite right, until we got that model right, model trained, and then we moved on to the next one. And so now those workflow type of examples I just showed you, that's where they are. So in the meantime, we're still allowed, we can now, which is the big thing, we can now train operators faster. So we can take the 6-month employee, turn them into a 3-year employee, the 3-year into the 10, and the 10 into the 20, because now they have the tools to be able to do it. Usually I have my cell phone with me. It's just like, those cell phones and the YouTube graduates, they're there. They want to learn, and they will use the tools if you give them. And in the meantime, it helps the business operations to save millions of dollars in the kind of uptime that they have, and also take that troubleshooting from hours to minutes. So when we think about, why AWS in manufacturing, well, truly we have, proven industrial AI expertise. We have, 20, 30 years in that Amazon retail business where we've been learning and training ourselves about how to up the game for our customers and what they're asking next. When I first started, and I also do fulfillment center tours, so I know a little bit about, some of the background operations, and just a little bit about what we learned through there, which is, a couple of years ago, anybody have any idea how fast we were able to deliver a package, what the fastest time was? Anybody? Just over 29 minutes. Today, just over 15. Now, that takes a little bit of, technology, ingenuity. We're moving closer and closer to the customer. But we're learning ourselves, and whatever we learn, you also get to take advantage of. Okay? Flexibility and choice. We have, twice as many production-ready type of algorithms, models, chipsets to be able to use. And then I kind of take those bottom ones of data governance and secure and reliability. We have, a strong infrastructure for everybody to run on. We take care of what goes on for the cloud, in a shared responsibility model with our customers, while you take care of what you put into the cloud. So, as we say, security is job zero for us. So if I circle back around to the Andy Jassy comment, which is, be aware of the technology used, that it can be used today. We all want to reinvent. We all want to move ahead. But pick partners, like AWS, like HighByte, like Deloitte, who's going to speak, who have a lot of background and a lot of success, and can help you through having some of those conversations, and also help you build your own roadmap for success. Thank you.